Yes, everybody. Rush the West End Network. Hope you are all safe and well this fine grey Tuesday afternoon. I'm glad to be back. No. Anyway, it is time for Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. This morning I had a bit of a musing, a bit of a rant about when is the right time to buy players. So it's to sell, it's to sell. When's the right time to sell, not the right time to buy. When's the right time to sell? And just talking a bit maybe from the top down in terms of looking above, when's the right time to sell a player, and how we proverbially how we've always been not very good at selling players at the right time and making the case of maybe now is the right time to sell Kudus, for example. But look, lots of different opinions and stuff. Let's crack into it. Lots to talk about. Let's start with something which is not going to happen for a change, and that is, I might help. Well, actually, let me do it properly. If you're going to do it, you do it properly, Rodden. There we go. In terms of a potential swap deal with Mohamed Kudus and Jadon Sancho, reported. I think Clarence Hughes spoke about it this morning, but it's reported in various other news outlets that, firstly, Chelsea are not going to renew Jadon Sancho's. Exercise the right to make it a permanent deal. I think it's going to cost them like £5 million to back out of it. And West Ham were apparently offered by Man United Jadon Sancho in a deal for Mohamed Kudus, which was considered as affordable, according to a senior source to Clarence Hughes. And I don't know if it is the certain senior source, because one senior source is on the senior of the senior sources, he's on a boat at the moment. So there we go. Anyway, regardless of that, it's our understanding that Jadon was open to a deal to West Ham, and talks were held at a top level. Apparently, it's understood that West Ham had held secret talks, but there was concerns from particularly Potter in terms of whether it was worth. There was concern about his fitness and stuff like that, and the value and cost of value in terms of his salary and stuff like that. So it's not going to happen for the foreseeable future, I would hope. I just think it's not the right aesthetic, as my daughter would say. It's not the right look for the type of player we're trying to bring in for the Potter regime. One player we are looking to bring in, and someone who I think is a very, very good player, is the Bournemouth winger, Tavernier. According to reports, West Ham are battling Newcastle to sign the Bournemouth wide man, and the 28-year-old former Middlesbrough player has been targeted as a potential replacement for the outgoing Mohamed Kudus, not as a direct replacement, but someone who could come in and do a job there. I mean, it's been reconfirmed again by Clarence Hughes, and there's been seen a source that he's someone that he's someone actively looking at. He's had a decent season for Bournemouth, good player. He's not, for me, a like-for-like replacement, but someone who would come in and play in the same position and wouldn't cost as much as we were going to be selling Mohamed Kudus for. If that makes sense. So, the ability to utilise that money potentially throughout the squad is something which I'm very keen of us doing. I don't really want to go out and buy another £80 million player to replace another £80 million player. I'd rather utilise that £80 million player to fill in the gaps and have a workable squad, a strong squad, which then we can work with next summer or next season, and hopefully have a successful season, but we never know. But I think it's I think also, that alongside with some of the players we've been looking at in the less favourable leagues, less exciting leagues, maybe than the top five, shows the right trajectory in terms of what we're trying to do. I think West Ham 18 months ago, 2 years ago, would have taken Jadon Sancho as job for hat. But I don't think Jadon Sancho is the right player for West Ham now. And that shows me a change in direction. Some people won't find appealing. They want names, they want big names, they want, but for me, I think for the longevity of the club in terms of changing the way we're working with, going with this sort of data-driven approach makes perfect sense, and the ability to find players relatively cheap and build up, I think Nick spoke about it in one of the comments on my morning video, talking about it was about conveyor belts. Again, I hate the word the Brighton model, but the Brentford model we're going to call it. Flecken goes, and it looks like they're bringing in Kelleher. They've got the next one lined up ready. We've never really had that. When we sold Declan Rice, we was like brought in 3 players, but it wasn't. And then we had to sort of make do. I don't want to be in that position. I want to stay. If we sell a Kudus, if you sell a Paqueta, you've got the next one ready or the next one planned, and he's bought in. And that's how I think modern football should be done. And we haven't had that ever at West Ham. So, under different ownership in different grounds, we never really had that. We did fly by the seat of our pants pretty much always. It's sort of like the West Ham way, but that doesn't work now in modern football. You have to have a model. You have to have a conveyor belt. You have to have a procession of players who can come in and build up that war chest. So it means you can go upper level and upper level and upper level in terms of the players you're bringing in. But that's my 2 cents worth. One player, hopefully, I wouldn't want to spend any money on him. That's for sure. Maybe a loan deal potentially. Alexander Mitrovic. He's been poo-pooed by a senior source apparently, but we were linked, according to TalkSports, with a move for the Serbian international striker, the 30-year-old Serbian international, currently plying his trade at Al Ahly, and he could well leave the Saudi Pro League and return back to England. Obviously, he'd have to take a significant pay cut, which apparently he's willing to do. And part of the reason also is, Al Ahly need to sell some foreign players to comply with their quota rules as well, and he could be sacrificed. He's had a decent season in the Saudi Pro League this year. Apparently, Man United also keeping tabs on him, having lost out on Liam Delap, it seems. For me, I wouldn't want to spend money on him. I still believe we won't buy players 28 or over, but a loan deal for Mitrovic could be an interesting thing, particularly, in terms of the type of value. I mean, look, about 40 million quid for him. Just don't think it's very good value at all. A loan deal, yeah, I could be up for that. Loan for an obligation if a certain number of goals are scored or something like that would make perfect sense. But I wouldn't want to spend money on him. He's at the wrong age now. Again, 2-3 years ago, we would have probably spent £30 million on bringing it, and we sort of did a little bit with Volkrug, to be honest. But that was, again, under a different regime. This is under Potter and Potters. I think there's a lot more thought going into the sell-on value of these players as well, which, some people will be critical of, why are we selling our best players and stuff like that, and I totally agree. I can understand where they're coming from, but I think to be a sustainable business, you need to have a sustainable income. And that being, regardless of whether regardless whether you're in where you are in the Premier League, if you bought a player for £5 million and he's worth £50 million, then that is the right model. I want teams to want our players. I want to be, too often than not, we have maybe 1 or 2 players which other teams want. Bowen, was always linked to a move from Newcastle, things like that. If players are being linked, all of our players are being linked proverbially to lots of different clubs, it means we're doing the right thing. We're recruiting right. And so that's what I want us to get to a situation. You look at, again, let's go back to Brighton. There's probably 4 or 5 decent players at Brighton, like some Matoma and people like that, João Pedro, and these types of players that people are interested in bringing in. That's what I want as well. And Mitrovic would not off, unless it's a loan deal, spending a significant amount of budget on him would, I think, be very poor. And I don't think we would do it, in all honesty. I don't think we would do it. And that's it, my friends. Thank you very much for your time, as per usual. If you're new and don't forget to like, comment, share. Don't forget to check out neesofoverbrand.com for latest news, reviews. My hair looks really shiny today. News, reviews, and opinions. And until next time, my friends, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you very, very soon, motherfuckers. Bye. See ya. Don't wanna be ya.